Peninsula Petroleum, global bunkering with local knowledge.
Kostas Fosteropoulos has a $2.6 billion expansion plan at a time when many other ship owners are retrenching. We caught up with him on his yacht to find out what is different for his Almi shipping group.
Well, precisely because we are going through very difficult times for traditional shipping, let's say box ships, which are the mainstay of the export from China, are having a very difficult time for obvious reasons. Bulk carriers that are the importers of raw materials to China are having a very difficult time. And tankers, having been slightly over-ordered, are having a difficult time. Precisely because of this difficult period we're going through, the only bright light in the tunnel is LNG. So it's not that Almi is different from other companies, it's that Almi is the number 8 Greek shipping company. 7 did it before me. Almi is the 8th Greek shipping company that was big in tankers and decided to go into the LNG business in a rather big way because exactly LNG is the future. I say LNG is the future for this reason. The Chinese have ordered a lot of bulk carriers and have purchased a lot of second-hand bulk carriers, and they are building, because they have the shipyards and the capital, the wherewithal, and many of these companies are, of course, government-owned companies. They are not necessarily private. They even may pretend to be private, but the government is behind them with credits, of course. The Chinese have ordered very many vessels of the dry cargo kind, and now they are threatening, is a word, they are threatening to build a significant number of large tankers. I've heard numbers like 48 VLCCs, and probably that is an understatement. They are probably going to build sufficient number of VLCCs to become self-sufficient in terms of importing oil, crude oil. So actually there's nothing strange about my ordering 8 LNGs myself. However, there is a very big threshold to entry in LNG. Now that threshold consists of 3 factors. One is the fact that LNGs cost $200 million if you order 2 of them a pair, or $210 million if you order just 1. Now that in itself is a threshold to entry. That's number 1. Number 2, operating LNGs is a totally different story from operating tankers, even if you're talking about sophisticated tankers like product carriers, which we operate. But even so, LNG is a different story. And that brings us to point number 3, which is a difficult threshold of entry, and that is that the oil companies, who are the biggest users of LNG vessels, the majors, the oil majors, are very difficult in taking independent operators on board to time charter their vessels. Now this is going to change. That is my personal theory. I haven't heard anybody else say it, but I will repeat it. The history of the tanker business after the war is this. We started out with 90% of the vessels being owned by the Seven Sisters, and today it's reverse. Today, 90% of the tankers are owned by independent ship owners, and half of those are Greeks. And the oil companies have gotten rid of, and I say it with emphasis, gotten rid of the owned by them tankers because of things like Exxon Valdez risk, because of higher operating costs. Their operating costs are 30% higher than our independent operating costs are. So that is a very significant reason. And because we can operate these vessels, as I say, much more economically and with no risk to them. If there's an oil pollution incident, we carry the blame. So the oil companies have come to realize that owning tankers is not a good deal for them. They would much rather let us own the tankers. And this is going to happen in the LNG business. They're going to let us own and operate the LNGs. It'll take a little time, but they will see the light. When the Seven Sisters, or what's left of them, sees the light, we will be the masters of the game. And there's an important thing here. It'll take the Chinese 10, 20 years to catch up in operational sophistication. So we have a clear field in which we can operate. I refer to the Greeks.
Is the Eurozone crisis and worries about the Greek economy an issue for you?
Totally irrelevant. We do not operate in a Greek market. We operate in the international offshore economy. So the Greek problem is very sad to us because we live here and we like it, but we can pick up our offices and go to Monte Carlo tomorrow morning.
Almi is a private family company, but you are planning to list your LNG carrier business on the Oslo Stock Exchange. Where do you see the future of private and public shipping for Almi and for Greek ship owners in general?
Yes. I have traditionally financed my ships purely through first mortgage bank lending, but that is no longer necessarily easy because just my program of Suezmaxes and VLCCs has reached $1 billion with DSME. Now, $1 billion to finance it through banks, okay, I managed, but they have reached a saturation point because 6 banks times $150 million is $1 billion, but they said, cost us, we've reached our limit. So I have to turn to friendly people like Fearnleys and say, we have some of them on board right now, and say, guys, I need some bonds. I need some Norwegian bonds. I need a Norwegian IPO. I need some private equity, some combination of all three, because now I'm talking $1.6 billion in addition. In other words, in order to finance my $1.6 billion worth of LNGs, again with DSME. You know what that is, DSME? It's Daewoo. Daewoo in South Korea. So there you have the answer. And your next question, I know what it's going to be. Why DSME and why Korea? Is that your next question? Force of habit.
After your LNG carrier listing, might you consider listing your other businesses?
I haven't really given it much thought, but I will talk about it with my new advisor. I have taken on board a financial consultant, the son of a friend of mine. His name is Asterios Suyudzoglu, and he's an ex-UBS banker. And because I'm no longer doing plain vanilla financing that I mentioned before, first mortgage, etc., I have taken on an advisor, a consultant who is an ex-UBS banker, and I will discuss it with him if we need to do more than just LNG IPO. Maybe we need to do something more.
And why list in Norway rather than the US?
Norway is, quite frankly, Norway is a backdoor to NASDAQ. You can actually use Norway IPO, and people like Golar, people like Fredrickson John, have used Norwegian IPO as a backdoor to Norway with less hassle, less red tape, less trouble.